I think I missed something here. Zach did something? Oh, okay. You're living down to your name, Barabbas. I find no fault with the uncle. Come on. Right. Well, when you said what name would I be in the Bible, I was saying Zachariah, but maybe Barabbas, you got it. Okay. Tomorrow is Labor Day, when we celebrate not working, right? What's a biblical view of work? And we've got 4 things that we'd like to draw your attention to this morning that I think reflect what the Bible has to say about work and its place in our lives and the way it relates to us and our God. But before we get into that, we know how the world looks at work generally, don't we? I think there are 2 basic ways the world looks at work. One of them is kind of capsulized by what Mark Twain said. Work is a necessary evil to be avoided. If you can think that over and make sense out of it, as you can anything Mark Twain said. Or perhaps you've seen these bumper stickers. Work fascinates me. I can sit and watch it for hours. And then for those of you who are attached to poles, the worst day of fishing is better than the best day of work. Or how about this bumper sticker? Hard work may not kill me, but why take a chance? And then this one that everyone, I think, has seen. I owe, so off to work I go. Well, that's a biblical view, and I think another, not a biblical view, but a cultural view, and I think another one, kind of on the opposite end of that, is to idolize work, to make work the central part of who I am. And so if I lose my work, then I'm lost myself. And work has a way of competing for what is most important in my life. Well, the biblical view, I think, can be answered in some ways by asking ourselves, why do we work? And we look at the first point here. Why work? Number 1, to connect with the way God made us. God made us to work. It wasn't punishment. God didn't punish Adam and Eve by asking them or making them work. He made them to work. That was the design. In fact, when you read the first verse of Genesis chapter 1, you see God at work. You read the last verse of Genesis chapter 1, and you see God looking over the work of his creation, and he says it's good. And then I think he made Adam and Eve to have dominion over this so that they would be co-creators with him. God is the only one who can make something out of nothing, but he's asked us to be sharers with him in co-creation and to make something out of something. To take and use our hands and go to work with what he's given us in the way of raw materials, to share as co-creators with him in tending and having dominion over his creation. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 27-28, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. We have that image of God, the Creator. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth. They are to work in the garden and to have dominion over it, to tend it, and to make it beautiful, and to be creative in that whole process. Do you know who are the first people to be mentioned in the Bible who have been filled with the Spirit of God? Make a guess. and then turn to Exodus 31. The Lord said to Moses, no, it wasn't him. It wasn't the great prophet and lawgiver. Look, I have specifically chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, grandson of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. I have filled him with the Spirit of God. The first person mentioned who has God's Spirit filling him, giving him great wisdom, ability, and expertise in all kinds of crafts. He is a master craftsman, expert in working with gold, silver, and bronze. He is skilled in engraving and mounting gemstones and in carving wood. He is a master at every craft. I didn't think you had to be filled with God's Spirit to be a craftsman. Well, isn't it interesting? That's the first one to be mentioned. A craftsman. What was Jesus when he came to earth? What was his first calling, occupation? He was a craftsman in the carpenter's shop. I hope you'll spend a little time looking at that blurb on the back of your bulletin. Work is made respectable by the divine person. We've already mentioned that God the Father is an architect. He is a creator, and he's made us co-creators with him to beautify what he's given us, the raw material. When Jesus came, he continued with this work or creative aspect. In his youth, Jesus said, I must be about my Father's business. Now, he was in the temple. Okay, he was in church, so to speak. But he said, I've come here to do the work that my Father is about. I'm here about his business. Okay? Later, he said, my Father has been working until now, and I have been working. It's who God is. God is always at work, and Jesus said, I have been working along with him. Near the middle of his ministry, he said, I must work the works of him who sent me. And so must we. Jesus goes on there in John chapter 9 to say we must work while it is yet day, because night comes when no one can work. Night will come for you when you pass on into that next world. Night may come for the one that you want to work with and to help shape and to help draw to the good news of Christ and what work he's done on their behalf. Night may come for them before you leave. So we must work while it is day. Then the final point there, at the end of his ministry, Jesus said in his prayer in John 17, I have finished the work you gave me to do. Work was central to the way Jesus lived. Work was central to the way Jesus interacted with others. It was his calling. He was called to do the work that his Father was working. The point is that God the Father and God the Son made work respectable. It is not to be idolized, but it is not to be disparaged either. It is part of how God has made us. To be craftsmen, perhaps, to take up some other vocation or some other calling. Look at those passages there at the bottom of your outline from Ecclesiastes 2. And you know, Ecclesiastes has this rather negative view that we sometimes attribute to him. All is vanity, or it's like chasing the wind. But notice what he emphasizes. As you go about your life and you see the cycle seemingly happening again and again, and we feel caught up here in chasing the wind, trying to make sense of this, trying to do what's right in this situation. And he says, look, simplify. So I decided there is nothing better than to enjoy food and drink and to find satisfaction in work. Do you find satisfaction in your work? Do you enjoy your work? Whether you're drawing a salary or whether you're working with people, whether you're working in some God-forsaken place or out in the public, do you find satisfaction in your work? He says, don't overlook the everyday joy of work. Don't overlook the everyday joy of a good meal. Now, most of us got that one. Okay, yeah, sure. I know how to enjoy food and drink and so forth. Enjoy the wife of your youth, he says. Find joy in the everyday. Well, that's the humdrum. No, find satisfaction. Find your calling in your everyday work, in your everyday life. Then I realized that these pleasures are from the hand of God. For who can enjoy or eat or enjoy anything apart from him? And then look at chapter 9 of Ecclesiastes. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For the realm of the dead, where you are going, there is neither working nor planning nor knowledge nor wisdom. We must work the works of the one who sends us into the world while it is yet today, because night will come and the world of the dead, our work ceases and our works follow us, as Revelation tells us. And then the passage there in the graphic on your outline, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. You're not just punching the clock for an employer. You're working for the Lord. You want to please him. And so whether your boss is a good one or a bad one, he's grouchy or happy or whatever, that's insignificant. You're working for the Lord and you're doing your work for him and you want to please him. And your attitude and your actions are directed toward working for him. Well, number 2 here. Why work? To provide for our needs. Well, that's obvious, isn't it? Well, yeah, most people work so they can have something on the table. I want to bring home the bacon, as the saying goes, or maybe even a little more than the bacon. The eggs to go with it and potatoes. We work to provide for ourselves. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. Even while we were with you, we gave you this command. Those unwilling to work will not get to eat. It's not those who are unable, but those who are unwilling. They had a problem in Thessalonica of some people who had quit work. They were so spiritual that they thought the Lord was going to return at any time. And so they had quit work and they were waiting on the Lord, and they were posed out there on the mountainside expecting to see him in the clouds at any time. And the world over here, the outsider, was looking at them and saying, boy, those Christians are lazy. They don't work. So Paul says, we got to do something about this. We're getting a reputation that's bad in the community. If someone won't work and he's part of the Christian community here, he's unwilling to work, no food. No work, no food. Okay? Unable, that's a different question. But he goes on to say, yet we hear that some of you are living idle lives, refusing to work and meddling in other people's business. If you're not busy with work business, you're going to be meddling in other people's business because of all that extra time. So it's obvious, I think, that we work to provide for ourselves. Notice that final passage there on your outline, Proverbs 12. The one who works his field will have plenty of food. If anyone won't work, don't let him eat. But if you plow your field, if you do the work, he says, in this agrarian culture, then you'll have plenty of food. But whoever chases daydreams lacks wisdom. Well, I would, I'd be willing to work, but I've got all of these gracious and golden plans in my mind that I'm going to be busy about someday. Well, yeah, but why don't you go punch the clock and bring home the bacon, brother? Work is who we are. If we don't recognize that, then we're missing something about the way God created us. He wants us to enjoy work just as he does. Enjoy being creative and craftsmanlike in whatever your particular occupation is. Then we go on to one beyond working to provide for our own needs, but we work to share with others. This is even a greater motivation and a greater blessing for working, as the Bible describes it. This is above and beyond working for ourselves. Look at Ephesians chapter 4. If you are a thief, quit stealing. Well, I'm not a thief. Okay, well, you work at the office and you've stolen office supplies. Well, I wouldn't call it stealing office supplies. They don't mind if a few stamps are missing or paper clips or pens or what. That goes with the job, doesn't it? I don't know, it may. You know, I go to Bank of Sierra and I steal from them all the time. And the reason I have to keep doing it is because of you. Because I'll put one of these pins out on the announcement table and somebody walks off with it. All right? So you're just as guilty as this thief, all right? But we may steal in different ways. We may steal from the workplace and not really call it that, or we may steal from the government, although you'd say, well, hey, my Uncle Sam has got enough. But the way I make out my tax form, it might be an indication I'm stealing. And you say, well, we have some legal, you know, things we can deduct for sure. Well, go for it. But we need to have this work ethic here so that when we quit doing something that's wrong, we replace it with something that's good and right. And he says work is the way we ought to do it. And we ought to work not just to provide for ourselves, but so that we'll have something to give to others, so that we'll have something to bless others with. So when you look at the top of your outline there, can we say TGIM and mean it? Thank God it's Monday is what that stands for. The world says, thank God it's Friday. I'm tired of working. I'm looking forward to the weekend and nothing to do over the weekend. TGIF. No, the Christian view of work says, I can say TGIM and mean it. I'm looking forward to going to work. Now, this week it's Tuesday. Remember that, Vernon. No sign work tomorrow. We're taking the holiday. We've got a work quotation up there that'll cover us for tomorrow. But we ought to have that kind of enthusiasm, I think, whatever our work is, that we enjoy our work, we find satisfaction in our work, and we're working so that we'll have to share with others. Why? Because it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. You say, well, I don't think so. Well, trust the word. When you become a giving person and then you're generous in your heart, you'll feel God's blessing more than you will if you're just kind of accumulating for yourself. Okay? More blessed to give than it is to receive. Well, finally here, and I think this is an important part of why work, why we should enjoy our work. We want to open doors for our message, our great message of salvation. Look again at Thessalonians. Make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. I don't know which translation it is, but it kind of plays on the words here, and it says, make it your ambition to have no ambition. What? Lead the quiet life. These people were out there causing a lot of noise. They had quit their work. They were waiting on the imminent return of Jesus, and they were making noise, and it was all cacophony. It was all a bad noise out there in the community, giving the church a bad reputation. He says, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. Sometimes when someone is quiet, you hear them better than when they're loud and noisy and all of that. Okay? Make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business so you can be about the Father's business, and work with your hands just as we told you. Why is that? So that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders. When you go to work, are you thinking about having a good influence on outsiders? The clients you see, the people that you work with, hand in arm, do you want to win their respect? As Melvin mentioned in his prayer here, that we ought to go about our work and the way we carry ourselves with our attitudes, with our actions, that's going to have an influence on people that we work with. And if we have good attitudes and good actions to go with it in kind of a quiet, unobtrusive way, that's appealing to the guy on the outside. But if we're hard to work with, and no one likes to work with that guy, if that's our reputation, we're not going to be opening any doors for anyone to come through to share in the good news of the gospel. Too many people out there on the outside who say, well, hey, you know, I tried church and I liked it except for the people that were there. You know, I want nothing to do with Christians. They're all hypocrites, or they're all critical, or they're all this, they're all that. We want to be attractive in our words in a quiet way, attractive in our actions in a quiet way, not drawing attention, especially negative, to ourselves, so that we can open the door for the good news and make it appealing. So sometimes if we're doing that, if we're going to work so that we can open doors, someday you may be surprised and someone will say, do you go to church? Where do you go to church? You know, we talked about this at the beginning of the year. We'd like to bring another individual. We'd like to bring a family to church. We'd double our size in a year. Let's think about that. We've got a newcomer. If you haven't met her yet, her name is Marie. She's going to provide dinner Wednesday night. She's come twice on Wednesday nights, and she's already volunteered to bring dinner. And what prompted her to do that? I don't know. But let's encourage her with that gift she's going to give us. She hardly knows us yet, but here's an opportunity, a door that might be open to bless someone as she blesses us. If you get to know her, you'll like her. We want to open doors for others. Jesus said we must work while it is day. Whenever we go back to work, or whenever we interact with people, our work goes beyond, I think, what we do 9 to 5. Our work goes with us when we go to the grocery store. Our work is to glorify God. Our work goes with us when we meet on Thursday night with the kids. Our work goes with us in every activity that God blesses us with. How do people around you assess you? Do they see you as someone that they would like to be more like? Do they see a door opening for new possibilities because of who you are? Or have we closed some doors because of the way we think or act or behave? The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you, and when it does, we will reflect his glory. We've been called, it's our vocation, to glorify him. If you need to respond, will you do that while we stand and sing?